You're listening to Nightmare on Film Street. The current time is 6:66. Traffic is clear ahead from here to the afterlife, but it's hell outside. For the next hour, you're on Nightmare time. So, let's give a grave welcome to our hosts, John and Kim.
Hello again, fiends, and welcome to Nightmare on Film Street, the horror movie podcast for the casually obsessed. I'm John.
I'm Kim.
And we're taking you back to the summer of 97.
Yeah, and we say horror movie podcast very loosely this week.
Yeah, no, this is definitely just a guilty pleasure pick.
Honestly, I think you guys are going to love it.
Yeah, who's going to be upset about us talking about Nicolas Cage and John Travolta in Face Off? Yeah, maybe not a horror movie, but as far as action movies go, this one's pretty fucking wild, guys. It is the most genre-heavy, sci-fi, dystopian action movie. These motherfuckers take their faces off.
Yeah, and every character dies pretty much, so I say that it is acceptable.
Yeah. Also, maybe one of the only movies I've seen more times than Evil Dead 2. This is one of those, like, wore out the VHS tape at home with my brother growing up, just on constant repeat, just face off. Well, also with the other movie we're going to be talking about next week, just on constant repeat. And every single time, it's an A+ movie. I've seen it 1,000 times, and it always delivers.
You want to hear a really funny story before we get started about the first time I watched Face Off?
Yes, I do.
So the little girl who lived across the street from me was having her birthday party.
How old? How old?
Well, I moved away from there when I was 11 or 12, so it was like 9, 10, we'll say.
Okay.
Young.
So 3 or 4 years after the movie came out. Got it.
Oh, maybe it was even younger than that then, because for a treat for her birthday, her dad took her to Blockbuster to rent a movie.
Oh, okay.
For us to watch at the party.
She picked Face Off?
She came back. We were all like eating pizza and whatever. They went to rent the movie during the party.
Themselves.
I don't know why. But they came back. We were all hanging out in the basement. She brings back fucking Face Off.
Amazing.
So it was a bunch
Were
of
you all
little girls watching Face Off and eating cake.
Were you all talking about what movie she might pick while she was gone? You're like, oh, I hope she gets The Water Boy or something. Like, what else came out that year?
The new Adam Sandler thriller.
Yeah.
Yeah, we fucking watched Face Off. And
that's incredible.
she did a good job. She picked a good one.
What a killer girl's birthday party.
I don't know if we had any understanding of what was going on, but we enjoyed it.
That is the beauty of a John Woo movie. He kind of helped set the template.
He films for everyone. 8-year-old girls.
Well, his fight sequences, like he kind of popularized the gun fu style, which is now John Wick is the gun fu that we have. But the idea of like people going in with guns in both hands, just shooting at each other from across that tight room instead of punching each other.
Hey, Castor Troy's like double golden guns are pretty sweet.
Yeah, no, they look real good. We're already excited to talk about the movie. If you haven't heard of Face Off before, it's a mid-90s action movie about a terrorist and a counter-terrorist officer who swap faces.
Yeah, I'm not sure what his official title is. He works for a bureau.
Yeah,
who knows what bureau?
John Travolta is the good guy in the movie at the beginning, and he thinks he's killed his arch nemesis, played by Nicolas Cage, but turns out he's just in a coma. They don't know where he's planted some gigantic bomb that's gonna level half of Los Angeles, so he has to go undercover in prison to interrogate the guy's brother, and the only way to do it is to become his enemy. Oh, it's incredible. It's the highest concept Hollywood's ever made.
My favorite thing about it, too, though, is like all of the stuff you think will be the biggest hurdle in like suspending your disbelief.
Blow right past
Done
it.
in 30 seconds. We don't know anything about the tech. We do not care.
Doesn't matter. There are so many leaps. There's a scene where Nicolas Cage as John Travolta...
Is this going to be one of your 3 good things?
I don't think that's one of my good things. It's a little vague, but there are some pretty great scenes where people have to sort of just explain to friends and family members the elaborate plot of this movie, and everybody goes, cool, got it. But as far as good things go, we can get right into that. My first good thing is probably just Nicolas Cage high on drugs saying, I want to take his face off. And he says it like 18 times.
That whole scene is really good. I want to talk about that. That is a whole good thing for me, just in general. That scene is fucking crazy.
Yep.
I'll do for number 2. It's another Nicolas Cage moment. Surprise, surprise.
Of course it is.
We're definitely going to talk about this scene in detail because it's the horror-iest scene of the film. But Nicolas Cage wakes up from his coma and he's got no face. And what does he do? He smokes a cigarette.
It's the fucking best. Just hanging out in the operating room, smoking cigarettes with no goddamn face.
Have you ever heard of anything as metal as that?
Number 3 good thing is that the middle chunk of this movie takes place in a dystopian future prison where all the prisoners have magnetic boots that zap them down to the floor.
We really don't even talk about how weird that fucking prison is.
That prison is a whole movie.
It is a whole movie.
And the evil scientist / doctor of the prison is played by Joe Bob Briggs.
I fucking forgot.
Yeah, just a crazy little cameo from Joe Bob right before Nicolas Cage breaks out of the future dystopian prison.
Yeah, because they electroshock the prisoners when they're bad.
Yeah.
Like, what? What?
I love it. There's a million good things about this movie. I'll say it right now, 0 bad things about this movie is probably the best way to review it.
All great things.
All great things. Most of them Nicolas Cage things. And we're gonna get into it.
Or John Travolta as Nicolas Cage things.
No, we'll talk about that in a little more detail. I have some thoughts on John Travolta in this movie. But we're gonna toss to the trailer. When we get back, we're gonna talk about Face Off.
I've been chasing this guy ever since I joined the force. He has no conscience, and he shows no remorse. He's the mastermind behind numerous bombings and political assassinations. He has a felony list a mile long: murder, arson, kidnapping, terrorism, you name it. He's the most dangerous and brilliant criminal mind I've ever known. For years, I've been watching him, tracking him, studying his every move. I know his every mannerism, every facial tick, gesture. I know him better than he knows himself. And now, after all this time, I finally figured out a way to trap him. I will become him. I don't care if I live.
You're not having any fun, are you, Sean? Try terrorism for hire. We'll blow some stuff up. It's more fun.
Plan B. Let's just kill each other.
Face Off is Face/Off is currently sitting at a 7.3 out of 10 on IMDb, 92% on Rotten Tomatoes. Maybe one of the highest Rotten Tomatoes ratings we've done in this podcast
For
before.
an action film, too.
Right? Oh, it's so nice to see Rotten Tomatoes on the right side of history.
But, you know, the crazy thing is, like, we talk about movies with really redonkulous premises. Mm-hmm. And I would say that this is one of the wilder and least explained premises in a film I've ever seen.
Yep.
And the fact that Rotten Tomatoes is like 92.
Love it. It's the best. And 3.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd.
One thing I do want to do at the top of the show is just give the film credit. It's not the highest brow thing. It's fun, it's wild, it's weird. But the fucking title?
You like the title?
It's fucking good.
Yeah, well, because it's 2 guys that are going against you, like they're arch nemesis.
Exactly.
They've been fighting each other for years. So of course it's a face-off between the two of them. But then they everything about this movie takes a concept and just injects a shit ton of crystal meth into it.
But then they literally take their faces off.
Yeah. Oh man. And this movie just has balls like you've never seen before in an
The
action.
balls on this movie.
The opening scene of the movie is a guy shooting a kid in the head. Like, that's the opening of the movie. And can I say,
Honestly,
the guy,
that was so long ago, I hardly remember.
the guy who kills that kid becomes the lead protagonist of the film. Like, or at least the face of that guy becomes the lead protagonist of the film. Like, we show Nicolas Cage as Castor Troy, domestic terrorist extraordinaire, doing all kinds of awful shit. And then 10 minutes later, you're like, oh man, I really hope this guy gets out of it, okay? Like, he murders a child, technically by accident, while wearing a criminal mustache.
I honestly, the shot of him with the mustache sipping out of the stripy straw was...
He looked like Freddie Mercury.
I'm gonna fucking print it out and put it above our bed.
That's so great. So he's trying to kill John Travolta, who's doing like a bunch of weird dad stuff with his son.
In slow-mo with weird music box music.
Yeah, you've got that sort of montage, that John Woo montage where it's just like, yes, there's lots of laughs.
I love this carousel horse.
So much joy. Nothing could go wrong here in this slightly slow motion memory of ours.
Surely no one will die.
Look at these beautiful doves. There couldn't possibly be a sniper gun hidden somewhere on a hill above us.
Let me touch your face all weird.
He does that so much in this movie. That's like his thing. His love language is just like running his hand down people's faces.
Honestly, if somebody did that to me, and I don't care if it's your thing, that is really insulting. Don't touch my face like that.
Everybody, well, especially if you're wearing a whole bunch of makkup too. Like, it's just a shit
just
move.
Don't touch my face.
Yeah. He does that to every member of his family, and they're all just like, they're really comforted by it. And he even does it to try and like apologize, like, oh honey, come here. Like, he does it to a photograph halfway through the movie.
It was a weird choice, and it was definitely one, I'm gonna say that this was a John Travolta choice.
It comes into play in later on in the movie.
It does become a plot thing, which is...
So that's the thing. It's like, everything about this movie is ludicrous, including that little detail, but they use it in an interesting way before the movie ends, and in a way that it conveys information to other characters.
He convinces his wife who he is by touching her face inappropriately.
Yeah. A stranger touches her face weird, and she's like, oh, that's my husband.
No, the body of the guy who murdered her young infant son.
Yeah. Who they've just had like a 6-year hate pact with. Their entire household is
like, kill Castor Troy.
Yeah, like all they talk about is how he ruined their life and how sad they are and how happy they're gonna be when they could finally murder him. Like, he comes home from work and he's like, it's done, honey, and he's gone. But yeah, John Travolta, unsurprisingly, has just become like a crusty, shell of a man who's at all costs trying to stop this billionaire domestic terrorist.
This really cool terrorist.
I know, right? He's got fucking trench coats and gold guns. When he gets to the airport, his henchman meets him with like a cool little gun box that is filled with tons of goodies inside, including like guns, joints,
blue pills, and chiclets.
Oh, they're probably Viagra, right? That's got to be what it was.
Well, they take it later on and they're fucked up, so
okay.
I don't think it's Viagra.
Not Viagra, just fun drugs instead. Yeah, chiclets, and that's what he grabs. He grabs a pair of sunglasses and some chiclets. What do you think of his sunglasses? His fucking he looks ruby red octagon sunglasses.
Honestly, looks like a vampire straight out of
anime.
I was gonna say modern day Bram Stoker's Dracula, but modern day Bram Stoker's Dracula is like 1882.
Oh yeah.
I'm talking about like cool hair, Oceans of Time Dracula.
Yeah. You bring him up a lot.
'Cause he's dreamy.
Anyway, John Travolta gets wind that, Castor Troy is going to leave the country. He's flying out with his baby brother, Pollux Troy. That's how they found out that he's going to be at the airport. So they converge with like 18 SUVs and a whole bunch of helicopters, and they
chase a plane down.
It's the greatest.
Okay, but we got to talk about this plane sequence, because you made the best point while we were watching the film about how Sean Archer, currently played by John Travolta, waits for no one. He's overseen by no one. He's got no oversight. He's got no clearance issues. In the middle of this showdown, he is trying to stop a plane with his Hummer. And then they see that, the undercover agent who terribly portrayed a flight attendant who looked like an FBI agent the entire time is being held hostage in the cockpit. And so he's like, oh, fuck, we gotta move. And then they like still continue to chase him down. He hijacks a helicopter to chase after them. He's like putting the helicopter on the wing of the plane so it can't take off. And it's just
How he got from that Hummer to a helicopter, it's so fast, is insane to me. Also, this is the longest fucking the takeoff track in the world. It's like a 20-minute runway. Thank you. It's a 20-minute sequence, and this plane has still not run out of track.
But you're so right. He goes guns blazing in with no intel, with no understanding of what he's up against.
They basically just had a rough rumor he might be here.
And half of his team fucking dies.
Oh, yeah.
And then at the end, when they're like congratulating him because surprise, surprise, he gets Castor Troy at the end of that scene. They're all proud. They get him champagne. Like the head of the CIA wants to talk to him.
You fucking did it, man.
And
No.
isn't
it the president? No, you're right.
That's later.
Yeah, sorry.
And he's like, what about these guys that all fucking died?
Yeah, let's give it up for McManus. Let's give it up for Anderson. Okay? Oh, man.
Like, they died because you wouldn't call it a fucking day when you lost.
You're the guy who's responsible for their deaths, and you're mad at them for congratulating you on something that you've been yelling at them for 6 years. The opening of the movie is him basically just screaming in everybody's faces. Like, how come we can't get anything fucking done around here? We'll take a break when the case breaks. Actual line from the movie. It's pretty great. But yeah, like there's a whole lot of exposition from him about like what he does, where they are, and their position in their case so far. About how they're so secretive of an agency that when they snap their fingers, nothing happens. Yeah, but they finally get their man. They kill a bunch of henchmen after, unfortunately, they killed his undercover FBI agent. They arrest Nicolas Cage's brother, Pollux Troy, who's kind of the architect of the bombs. He makes the bombs. He creates the programming and the timing for all these bombs. Nicolas Cage seems like the guy who, I don't know.
He's the poster boy of crime.
Yeah, he calls the shots. It does seem like he delivered the bombs to the LA Convention Center at the beginning of the movie.
And not very like low key or secretive. He's wearing a priest outfit. He's got his monk haircut.
Yeah, he's undercover, Kim.
He interrupts a choir. He sexually assaults one of the choir performers.
Who's probably 17. Which is like foreshadowing for when he's maybe gonna.
He sexually assaults a lot of people in this movie.
So that's what I'm getting at.
He's got a bum slapping thing.
They do such a great job of making him an evil son of a bitch. And then 2 minutes later, you're like, that's my guy. That is one of the greatest moves of this whole movie. Not even just Nicolas Cage. There's a scene before John Travolta has done the body swap with Nicolas Cage, where John Travolta's still the good guy who's mad that he doesn't know where the bomb is. And he's interrogating Nicolas Cage's crew, like all of his henchmen, people that he knows are probably responsible or at least helped in the creation of this bomb that they can't find. Mm-hmm. And the bad guy's like, hey, Sean, how's your dead son? And he laughs in his face. And it's like, wow, these guys are tough and shitty and they don't give a fuck about anything. And then half an hour later, you're buddies with that guy. And you're actually with the crew of terrorists, and you're like, these are good people. Like they have bad occupations, but they're good people.
And their layers are fucking sweet.
Yeah, and then when they all die eventually, you kind of feel bad for them. The movie does an incredible job of sort of like flipping a coin on damn near every character in the movie.
That is very true. And for some reason as well, they play such bigger roles in the film than you think they would.
This is a lot of movie. There's so much movie in this movie.
Like, when characters die, we treat them with their first name, last name.
Yeah. Like that guy I'm talking about specifically who's taunting John Travolta with his dead son. He dies protecting his sister and her child. And Nicolas Cage as Sean Archer, who clearly hates this guy, feels sad for him dying, and then he also gets a cool death because he's clearly shot in the neck, and when he takes his hand away, just the fucking geyser of blood comes out.
So good.
Yeah, like
and
you turned up a fucking cherry red soda.
Oh, it's so good.
What about the face-off operation scene, Kim? How do you like that?
Well, it's fucking phenomenal because the movie at this point is just trying to get us there. We just want to switch faces.
We're 40 minutes into the movie and they haven't switched faces yet. And it feels like we're still just like scratching the surface. Like it's an almost 2.5 hour movie and it fucking flies.
Yes, and so they present this possibility to Sean Archer because at this point, Sean thinks he has killed Castor Troy in the whole plane fiasco. But then they take him to some secret covert hospital and Castor Troy is in a coma.
Right? He has like a breakdown. He's like, "You're keeping him alive?"
But they're like, "But wait, we have this technology. We can take his face."
Yeah.
And they show him 2 computer screens with full body 3D scans of both of them. And they're like, "We'll just nip tuck your tummy and we'll
get rid of these love handles.
We'll change your hairline a little bit. We'll put these prosthetics on your face and boom, you're Castor Troy."
Yeah, soften your butt chin. It's the greatest. I mean, the faces look a little weird when we're in the actual operating room and they're like laser cutting everything off. But I just love that they're basically using the same technology you would use for creating a mold for a prosthetic appliance in special effects. We've got a piece of plastic here that's form-fitted to the inside of your face.
They like vacuum seal the face they've cut off to lift it off.
Right? And they're just like, and then they put it in the fucking tank of saline. It is the coolest goddamn scene. And then, the best part about it is when they lift Nicolas Cage's face and they put it on top of John Travolta's head, and then you just see them sloughing the skin around to like get it to fit properly. Looks great.
They didn't reattach any nerve endings.
They
though.
said they did. They said they're gonna.
They just put it right on top of his face.
Yeah, they're like, "Oh, we got this perfect little thing. It'll line up all your nerve endings and everything, so you can move it around and whatnot." It's science, Kim. It all works.
Yeah,
You gotta believe in the process.
it's funny too because you were mentioning like the crazy futuristic prison, which I didn't even like factor into my reasoning. I was like, this is really crazy tech for present day because nothing about this film is anything but the 90s. Like I'm particularly thinking of John Travolta's daughter Jamie because she's got this punk rock goth rebellious phase she's in and she screams the era that we're in. She screams summer of 1997.
Yeah.
But when they're doing this face-off surgery, like this is technology that is 200 years in the future. They are doing the incisions around the face with lasers. When the face is actually reattached to the different person, there are no scars. They
have to adjust his vocal cords. Like they can literally just make it match. They
use like the same fictional sound box from the Scream film.
But that's very true. The best part about that is that the audio bite they have, like, "Hey, can you just repeat this phrase?" The same way you would, when you're setting up a new iPhone, you're like, "Hey, Siri."
Peach.
Yes, I could eat a peach for hours is a line that he used right before he killed the FBI agent. He's like hitting on her by saying that. And so they just have him saying that over and over and over again until they just like tweak John Travolta's voice to like fade into Nicolas Cage's voice. Love that. And then the fact, too, that they're just like, "Hey, you gotta be real careful with this because, like a bump or a hit or even a really hard sneeze could knock this out of place and it couldn't work properly." But then the rest of the movie, he spends getting punched, shot at, jumping out of buildings, and the vocal box is totally fine.
I mean, it fucks up a little bit near the end, but I think it's only temporary.
I think that's after he gets punched in the throat. Yeah,
yeah, not that crazy high-speed boat chase where he goes through the Coast Guard. Through the Coast Guard.
They drive a fucking boat through a boat. It's incredible.
I guess there's 2 surgery scenes, and I kind of want to talk about the second one.
Okay.
Because so after they successfully switch Nicolas Cage's face onto John Travolta's face, so John Travolta's Sean Archer is now playing Castor Troy.
We didn't think this would be so hard to talk about.
He looks like Castor Troy. This is an audio medium, so this is really hard.
We really need a slideshow presentation of
Yeah.
this.
So Sean Archer is Castor Troy. He goes to prison.
We can just say the good guy and the bad guy. That might be the best way to do it.
But the good guy is playing the bad guy. It's very
okay.
confusing.
Okay.
So they leave actual Castor Troy with no fucking face.
Yeah, he's just bandaged up.
They just have like cloths on his face.
Yeah, you'd think they need to like keep it wet so that way, because maybe they don't give a fuck about putting the face back on, right? Because John Travolta's face is in a tank.
Yeah, it's just on ice.
It's just hanging out.
And so Castor Troy wakes up. He realizes he has no fucking face. And then he sees John Travolta's face like floating in a fish tank.
And he figures it all out.
And he's like, I'm gonna fucking take his face.
I believe the actual quote is, like those are the sounds that he makes when he wakes up. And like to his credit, he's got no lips, he's got no eyelids.
Nicolas Cage in this sequence is fucking inspired.
Because yeah, he's making a phone call to his henchmen, like his crew, saying like, they took my fucking face, but it's fine, we're gonna fix it, I'm gonna take his. And then they, he gets them to kidnap the doctor and bring him back to the operating room to sort of complete the procedure. But his performance on the phone, like he's a shadow. We don't see him. We can only hear his voice, but he's not finishing syllables. He's not making B's or P's because he can't. And he sounds like a monster.
It's the best Invisible Man scene in a non-Invisible Man film.
Yeah.
It is so good. Like you could masterclass that scene for like iconic horror monsters, and how they shoot it too, because they don't want it to be too gory. Like it's a lot of like his hands being terrifying, like his bloody hand from touching his face is like pulling down the slatted blinds, and you're like, oh, this is monster movie goodness.
But you can totally see that they're cutting around the scene when he is applauding the doctor. He's hanging out, listening to classical music, watching the procedure, eating all the pain medication he can find in the lab, and smoking a pack of cigarettes that he found somewhere.
With no lips.
No lips. Still smoking cigarettes. Love it. But when the henchmen bring the doctor and he's like, oh, congratulations, doctor, on your work. I'm just watching some of your greatest hits here. And he's standing up, giving him the standing ovation, saying bravo. And we get quick cuts sort of seeing what his face looks like. They're definitely editing around what they originally wanted to do with that, for sure, because it's just flashes of gore. You only actually see his full fucked up face in the reflection of the doctor's glasses when he sort of like walks up to him and says like, let's get to fucking work. It looks great. It looks awesome. It looks gory and shit. I wish we could have seen it more.
You know what's kind of crazy that we haven't mentioned this yet on the podcast, that they announced they're doing like a requel, remake, whatever, and that Nicolas Cage and John Travolta are gonna be in it.
Can't wait. It's the one time I'm not gonna complain about remaking a movie from the 90s.
Yeah, I really it's fine. Go. Yeah.
Let's do it.
Do it.
I don't know how we're going to.
Honestly, maximalist movies deserve maximalist sequels.
Yes. This movie really takes everything to level 10. Even in just the character relationships in the movie, they really dive into some of the implications of these two guys switching identities. But it I don't know, it also does a great job of just like following threads that the beginning of the movie has sort of like laid out, and then before it brings you to like this no man's land where you're not really sure what what the point of all of this is anymore. Because originally, Sean Archer's going undercover to find out where the bomb is. He discovers where that bomb's located, but before he can tell anybody, Castor Troy has taken his body and now is walking around pretending like they've got the real Castor Troy in prison.
Well, and he fucking kills every single person that knew about this secret mission.
Oh yeah, because this is a black op operation. Like, it can't be on the books. No one can know about it. It's literally just like you, me, and the doctor, and that's it.
And the one guy that's holding your wedding ring.
Yeah, poor Tito. Yeah, they all got doused in gasoline, lit on fire, so now the only people in the world who know that they have swapped faces are the two guys who've swapped faces. That and a few bad guys. I think he lets a few bad guys know.
I think he lets his brother know once he releases him from jail.
Yeah. But then, Sean Archer, now a villain, John Travolta, the bad guy, has no problem telling the CIA or the FBI or whoever where the bomb is. They defuse the bomb, he saves the day, and you're like, okay, so now the bomb isn't the problem anymore.
Which is such a weird reversal because it makes it like a plot MacGuffin. Like, the whole reason why we switched faces was for this fucking bomb that was going to decimate a mile radius in downtown wherever, and bomb's disarmed. Yeah. Now it's just like, I'm stuck in this body. Now it's just Freaky Friday.
Yes. But him and his brother hatch this plan where they can use the government to more or less go after all of their competition in the terrorist world, And then once all of those guys are out of the way, they can become the big bad guys again. But then his brother gets killed, so that plan's out the window. So it's like at every turn, the plan keeps getting foiled until it's literally just, we need to kill each other. Like, it takes 2.5 hours to get there, but ultimately that's all it is. Just like, I want to kill that motherfucker, and he wants to kill me, and one of us isn't getting out of here alive, and then I'm getting my face back. and that's the whole goddamn movie. And they keep funneling them toward it.
I think the reason why we have to get to that point is because they have to be nemesis?
I think so.
Without fucking up each other's faces.
Without fucking up... Oh.
The faces must be retained.
They have to keep the faces intact.
Which doesn't make any sense for that crazy-ass boat fight they have, because, like, dying on a boat, dying via boat, dying in the water...
You could hit the propeller on your way down.
Yeah, like, not great for faces. Also, like, bloating... It's not a good spot if you want to preserve a face.
But that fucking image at the end of the movie where he's just got like a fucking sharp piece of boat metal and he's just like cutting off his face while they're fighting. Incredible.
Such a Castor Troy move.
Yeah, what a dickhead. What do you think? So we haven't really talked much about performances. What do you think? Well, I'll start like this. What do you think of John Travolta? Because he's kind of an annoying dude in the beginning of the movie as the good guy. What do you think of John Travolta as a bad guy? Because that's not really like a thing he's super known for at this time.
It's hard to say, because there are moments of brilliance in both of their performances where you're like, ooh, that's really Nicolas Cagey, or like, ooh, that sounds like not Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
Those are really the two levels.
Anytime John Travolta like tries to sing a little bit, you're like, ooh, Nicolas Cage would do that. There's a lot of scenes where Nicolas Cage sings in this movie.
Well, yeah, like in any time Castor Troy as Sean Archer like puts his hands out in that motion,
yeah,
where he's like doing basically like the Jesus pose,
a big John Woo thing.
Very Castor Troy. I don't know if my disbelief is suspended the entire way through the film for either of them.
Really? I think Nicolas Cage does an incredible job in this movie.
They both do a great job.
So Nicolas Cage
but not necessarily because they're doing a great job.
I don't know. Like, I don't know if people give Nicolas Cage enough credit in this movie for acting the fuck out of that role, because he is unhinged Nicolas Cage in the beginning, and we all love that. He can do that every day of the week, and he does it exceedingly well. But when he becomes Sean Archer in Nicolas Cage's body, I think he does a great job of like being like the tortured character who has to pretend to be the person who killed his son, like the person he's hated his entire life, and also being in a prison where there's a chance that he could spend his entire life there if things don't go right, and they sure don't. But I think he does a really good job of being John Travolta filtered through Nicolas Cage's face. Like it's
so complicated.
I know it's complicated.
How nuanced.
And it is, though. I think it really is. The problem is I don't see Nicolas Cage in John Travolta's performance. I just see John Travolta being sort of like flamboyant, evil John Travolta. It doesn't come across to me as Nicolas Cage.
I honestly, it is a really hard thing to do, though, because they're such iconic faces. They are two A-list actors.
At the height of their power,
exactly.
too.
So it is really hard to watch and try to like turn off that part of your brain that's like, oh, this is John Travolta, which I think is kind of working against you as an audience member. I will agree with you, though, with Nicolas Cage's performance. My favorite moments of those performances are not when he's trying to be like Sean Archer straight, but when Sean Archer is losing it a little bit because he's falling into like who Castor Troy is. Particularly the scene where he has to do the drugs with the friends.
Yeah.
And he's doing like the crazy eyes and like the freaky Castor Troy mannerisms and shouting and moments. And you could see in Nicolas Cage's performance that he's falling into it.
Yeah.
Like the lines are blurring because he's on some kind of drug, but and how that's fucking with him mentally.
Yes.
And it's just like,
because every time he looks into the mirror, he's seeing somebody else's face.
What a bad trip guaranteed. If you fucking like you have to take this drug, you don't know what it is, and then you go to the bathroom and you're looking at your enemy's fucking face.
It's crazy.
Ugh.
Maybe it's just star power. Don't get me wrong. Like that's probably just like the biggest quality they have going for them, in this role. But the fact that he can kill a kid, sexually assault a teenager, be an asshole to everybody, murder people indiscriminately, and then be incredibly sympathetic 5 minutes later is nuts. Like, I know that, as the story goes, you're like, well, it's not technically the same guy. It's a different person. But, like, you're literally looking at the same face, Like, people's brains aren't as, like, high tech as we like to think they are. They're pretty basic. Faces are things that we have a hard time getting over or forgiving, or, if we already hate them. And Nicolas Cage just has that ability. And I think it's just in his expression because, like, you see pain in what he's doing. But he has to like pretend to love it. Like, so he's still doing the crazy Nicolas Cage thing, but there's like this other layer where you can see as a viewer that it's a put on, but he has to still kind of be level 10. Like that's just genius.
Which is insane too, because like Nicolas Cage doesn't get a lot of credit for his acting prowess.
Yeah.
He's often considered like, oh, Nicolas Cage can only do 11. But the fact that he can do this type of performance means that when he is 11, it is an intentional decision. Yeah, well, so it's just like, these are just the characters he likes, the performances he likes to do.
Yeah, like for a lot of people, it can be hard to do an 11. For Nicolas Cage, he's doing a nuanced 11. How do you do that? It's insane.
And I will say, too, to his credit, and the fact that both these actors are playing each other at different parts in the film, I don't think you could reverse them from the get-go. I don't think...
Oh, like you don't think that John Travolta could
start John Travolta could not have been a Castor Troy.
No. They're absolutely in the right places.
Exactly. Something fun that I read was different actors they were considering for the roles before these two.
Oh, I don't know about this.
And it would have been an entirely different, and I do not think a successful film, if they had have cast Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Okay, and?
Sylvester Stallone.
Oh, that's weird. It's like the same guys. But, around that time, Sylvester Stallone, not that he was really a villain in those movies, was playing, because I assume he would start as the bad guy. Like, he'd be in the Nicolas Cage role, probably, right? Oh, what a weird movie. But Sylvester Stallone has played assassins in the mid-90s.
But seeing them try to do another actor with a like very strong voice characteristics, like both of them have very different dialects.
Yeah.
Very, very different dialects.
That's so true.
Which is just like, well, the voice modulator will fix it all.
How's the voice modulator going to make your tongue do some of those sounds?
And change your accent. Like, accent isn't done through your voice. It's done through your brain.
Can you imagine Arnold Schwarzenegger with Sylvester Stallone's voice coming out where he's trying to learn how to do Arnold Schwarzenegger? Like, okay, so instead of, I like to eat a peach for hours, we just need you to say, "Ya do the chopper!" and then you're good to go. Now,
those are my cookies!
Yeah. Or the trick is to try and do an
Put the cookie down!
You gotta try and do an Arnold Schwarzenegger quote with Sylvester Stallone's voice. You gotta be like, "It's not a tumor." Okay, but I know that the script went through a shit ton of rewrites, so that was probably like an older version of the movie because John Woo kept turning this movie down.
Yeah, apparently it was optioned since like 1991, and then like it went from Warner Brothers to Paramount or vice versa. At one point, Johnny Depp wanted to play Castor Troy.
Wow.
But then he read the script and he was like, "No, thank you."
Wow. Damn. Missed opportunity, buddy. It would have been great. But yeah, John Woo kept turning it down, and eventually they rewrote it for him. I think the problem is just that, he tried to make Hard Target himself the way he would have made a movie, and they fucked it up. And then he made Broken Arrow, which was like, sort of playing to the crowd a little bit in that he's making a tamer American movie. I don't think he had a great experience with that, so he didn't want to do that with Face Off, and they just kept rewriting the movie to make it more like a John Woo film. And like, good God, I'm glad they took the time because this fucking movie's incredible. One of the best scenes of the movie. Now, there's great scenes of Nicolas Cage just like looking into a mirror and seeing his villain's face and just like being completely fucked up by that. One of the best scenes of the movie is when Castor Troy and Sean Archer are both taunting each other in the middle of a gunfight, and they're both on opposite sides of a wall. And when they turn to sort of shoot through the wall at each other, you see that it's a double-sided mirror. So they're pointing guns at, their own faces. But in this movie, they're pointing a gun at the person that they actually want to shoot, which is fucking brilliant. John Woo makes a poetic gunfight like nobody's business.
Well, the final sequence is in a church with doves flying around. Like, we don't even mention that.
I want to talk about that church sequence in a minute, but this mirror thing, I want to at least let you know, not a uncommon move of John Woo. He's done that before, like bad guys pointing guns at mirrors, like on opposite sides of mirrors, but it takes a complete different turn when they're wearing different faces. Like he found a way to use a move that he's done a few times before and make it mean something completely different. I think it's fucking genius. The fight in the church at the end of the movie, the beachside church, is classic John Woo. Like, we start with gulls everywhere. Like we're at the waterfront, right? And then those gulls eventually turn to doves. Like we had to show where we were to justify why doves are here. If there are no doves in a gunfight, it's not a John Woo movie. It's classic. You've got religious imagery all over it. The funeral makes no sense because this is for a CIA director who's died, like an old fucking 65, 70-year-old crotchety CIA director who's one of two actors from Fargo that's in this movie. Also is in The Family Man with Nicolas Cage.
Love that movie.
The funeral looks like something you'd see in Baz
In
Luhrmann's
The Crow.
Romeo and Juliet. Or The Crow, yeah. It does not look like... It looks like a very hip funeral.
Yeah,
for like
not a
cool
military funeral at all.
22-year-old Latin gangster that just died.
Very Romeo and Juliet.
Yes, like this is Tybalt's funeral and we're going to fight at it. Not the 70-year-old pasty white guy. But a great spot for a funeral shootout. That leads to a boat chase, that leads to another fight sequence on the fucking ground.
Yeah, this movie is shooting on all cylinders. It's not even just like face swap movie. It's like face swap movie with set pieces.
Incredible set pieces. They spend so much money blowing stuff up in this movie. It's absolutely insane. The budget for the prison section of this movie is the budget for like 5 movies that we would cover on this podcast in a given year.
And the plane sequence, they blew up a plane in an air hangar.
Yeah, now Christopher Nolan's the only guy that's allowed to do that, and he's got to have $200 million to do it. The only thing that we haven't really talked about in this movie that is fucking great is the wife, because this guy who's wearing John Travolta's body is the person who killed her son and has ruined their family and their life. And he fucking sleeps with her. Like, and he taunts Nicolas Cage with that too. Like, I gotta go home and fuck your wife. And then he does. And then the moment that Eve, Sean Archer's wife, realizes that Nicolas Cage is her husband, which is the greatest like piece of dialogue where he's just like, oh, they swapped my face and then I did this and then they did that and then he killed everybody and took my face. And she's like, we've been living together as husband and wife for a week.
What an old-timey way to be like, I fucked him.
I fucked the guy that killed our son. Like, if this movie, or at least that chunk of the movie, was shot from her perspective, it'd be way creepier and way scarier. Because it's fucked.
It is fucked. There's an entirely different movie that's just her, like, mental breakdown.
Yeah,
from that,
right.
From that week in hell.
After this ends, how does she go on?
And she's, now the adopted mother to his son, which is a whole other plot we have not even talked about.
Yeah, so we discover that Castor Troy has a son. It
looks like and is the same age as Sean Archer's dead son.
Yes, or at least the age that he was when he died. And because the mother, dies later in the movie, there's a whole thread of that about how he's really shitty to her when he's interrogating everybody and how he's going to get child services to take her kid away, even though she's a good mom who just, happens to be running with a bad crowd.
I don't know, though, because that whole sequence where they're doing the shootout in the bad guy's lair and she's there with her kid and they put headphones on and the kid's listen to rainbows and sunshine. Mm-hmm. They're just tossing that kid back and forth through gunfight. The kid picks up Nicolas Cage's golden guns at some point. And she's like, don't touch those. And you're just like, ma'am, you should not have this son.
She would love to have her kid in a safer environment, Kim. You know, it's just like, so you can only do your best. You know, she's
Get a waitressing job.
Well, I think part of the problem is, like, we do establish the fact that Sean Archer has his thumb on her fucking life. It's just like she can't get out from underneath the fucking rock that she's under, kind of because of him. You know, like he's doing everything in his power to make her life a living hell, because if she actually could, afford a better lifestyle or move away from it, then he wouldn't be able to tap her for information and squeeze her when he needs to. And like, there's a whole moment where he's like really, really regretful of all the awful shit that he's done to her. I mean, like, I'm maybe reading into this a little bit, but like, that's what we're trying to get from it, is that he really regrets all the awful shit that he's done to her. And as an apology, raises her son for her, which is the son of the bad guy. It's kind of honestly not a bad way to end the movie. Let's be real.
It's weird though.
It's great.
It's a weird Band-Aid on a dead son.
It's a weird Band-Aid on a dead son. Even weirder than that, though, is that we have done nothing but like make the bad guy awful and evil, and at every turn he's getting worse and worse and worse, and then he's dead and he's back home, same face. It's me, happy, son's behind me. I'm the hero again. Like, what a weird structure for a movie, because the guy we care the most for throughout the whole film
has Nicolas Cage's face.
Exactly. But it's bookended by John Travolta. It's like he gets to just show up at the beginning and the end and be like, it's my movie, guys. Like, I hate to tell you, John, it's Nicolas Cage's movie, even if you have top billing. God, what a great movie. I love this fucking movie.
One thing I did want to mention that we didn't really, we kind of glazed over him, is the actor that plays Castor Troy's brother, Pollux.
Yes.
He's not a huge character in the film. I guess he's got a good amount of like screen time. It's his first acting role.
No fucking way.
Yeah, I honestly think he is one of the best bits of casting in the whole film.
Every line he has is amazing.
Like,
bye, bro.
Oh, yes.
He waves with his fucking pinky finger.
But he looks like the brother that's like, like holed up in his room building bombs. Like, he just embodies that character so well.
Oh, we didn't even talk about the fact that Castor Troy has this thing where, like, he takes care of his brother. He feeds him pills. He ties his shoelaces for him. And then later on when he dies, his shoelace is untied and he ties, like, instead of closing his eyelids like you would in a regular movie, he ties
instead of touching
the shoelace.
his face inappropriately.
So that's the thing. Like, so many people have weird little things that they do with their loved ones in this movie, but they all kind of come back around and wrap up in interesting ways. He's great in the movie.
The shoe tying, cute. The face touching, not cute.
Very weird, but works. Totally works. It's funny that the face it's funny that the face touching thing is the weirdest thing in this high concept movie where people swap faces.
The face touching and the butt smacking.
Yeah. Yes. I don't know. It's all just like visual things that you could do. Like, you could watch this, like, if English wasn't your first language and you didn't understand a word of the goddamn movie, I think you could watch it and completely understand what's happening. That's kind of like the brilliance of what John Woo can do, because a lot of his fight sequences have no dialogue, but they tell stories. Like, he's a very visual filmmaker.
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta tell you, I don't know if you know this, he has a new movie coming out. They announced it in 2021. I think it might be coming out sometime this year, called Silent Night. Joel Kinnaman's in it. He's the lead. No dialogue in the whole fucking movie.
Whoa.
It's a John Woo action movie about a guy who's going to, like, get revenge for his dead son. Surprise, surprise. But zero dialogue in the entire fucking movie. I can't wait.
Wow. That's really cool. And it makes sense, too, because he's an international director and he started in Hong Kong. So, like, it would make sense that when he moved to like American Hollywood cinema, that he still wants to make films that'll translate internationally. And action films really translate well.
Oh, yeah.
As international pictures.
Absolutely. I think it's no surprise. This is a 4 out of 4 for me. If I could rate it higher, I would. It's a pure 100% movie. Truly one of the movies that made me, even though it's not quite a horror movie. It's pretty fucking, I don't know, like, as a kid, I was just like, this is the greatest, goriest, fucking most violent thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
But it does a good job, like in the same way that the old classic monster movies did, that you feel like you've been given all of the gore and the violence in those scenes just based on how they're shot. Like they don't necessarily need to show you Castor Troy smoking without a face very much for you to feel like you saw him without that face that whole scene.
I do, you know, like I feel like a little bit of an idiot for not following that thread when you dropped it earlier. But like, yeah, if you watch this more like a monster movie, it makes complete sense. It's like it's a mad scientist movie. They're monsters. They're evil people. It's very operatic in how big and bad they are, and
the score will tell you it's operatic.
Oh fuck yeah, it will. It's like a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde story if they were two separate people that were always trying to make sure one of them didn't exist.
Ooh,
yeah,
like Harry Potter and Voldemort.
Sure. So how do you rate Face Off?
I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 4.
Wow. Genuine actual surprise. I really thought this would be a 4 out of 4 from you.
It's a 4 out of 4 in spirit.
Okay. Where's the 0.5 dip? Just personal preference?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, still a perfect summer movie, blockbuster of the fucking year, 97. I don't know if that's actually true, but like, goddamn.
It came in 11th.
It
also came out the same year that Titanic came out, though. So, like, I mean, it did fine.
Oh, I guess that's very true. Some stiff competition. And it came out the same year of the movie we'll be talking about next week. Maybe even more of a stretch than Face Off was.
But the best double feature at the drive-in you could have in the summer of 97.
And an actual genuine double feature you might have been able to do.
They came out in the same month.
Same fucking month. God, what a time to be alive. Anyway, we'll be back next week to talk about that movie. In the meantime, let us know what you thought of Face Off on Twitter at NOFS Podcast or in the Nightmare on Film Street Discord. You can chat with us pretty much anywhere you can reach us. We'd love to talk to you about Nicolas Cage and Face Off.
Our Discord is nofspodcast.com/Discord.
And while you're at it, if you're a fan of Face Off and Nightmare on Film Street, give us a 5-star rating wherever you listen to this podcast. Anywhere that you can rate this, please give it 5 stars. Give us a quick little review. Tell your friends and family and strangers on the internet why this is your second favorite movie podcast.
If you want even more Nightmare on Film Street, consider joining us over on Patreon for bonus episodes and access to our monthly watch parties and more fun. That is at nofspodcast.com/Fiend Club.
Until next time, I'm John.
I'm Kim.
Stay creepy.
It appears you made it out alive, but we'll get you next time. Help us to grow the horde. Leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you subscribe. More terror can be found lurking on our website, nofspodcast.com. Until next time, stay creepy, fiends.